They said Dr. William Kerr was a miracle worker, until someone noticed the smell. It wasn't antiseptic or chemical like a hospital. It was sweet, rotten, metallic. When Detective Alan Brewer forced open the basement door, the air seemed to pulse. The light flickered, illuminating stainless steel tables and jars filled with faces that didn't blink. I remember standing behind him, frozen, as my recorder shook in my hand. The surgeon everyone trusted had been saving pieces, not people. I thought I saw one of the jars fog from the inside, like something was still breathing. The detective whispered, "God help us." But I already knew. Whatever was down there didn't want saving. Would you still trust your doctor after this? They found patient files beneath the floorboards, hundreds of them. Dates, names, procedures, some marked with red stamps that said, "Unclaimed." The detective's voice cracked as he read them aloud. I kept staring at the one labeled, "Monroe, Claire." I hadn't ever been his patient, had I? The neighbors always said Dr. Kerr never slept. His lights were on at 3 a.m., always moving shadows behind the blinds. They thought he was dedicated, but the smell had started years ago. One woman called the police once. She said she heard someone scream. They told her it was just the sound of a medical procedure. Detective Brewer called it a collection of failure. But Kerr didn't look like a man who failed. He looked like a man who couldn't stop. He told the camera I didn't kill them. I preserved them. I made sure they'd never rot like the rest of us. The night they took him away, he didn't fight. He only said one thing as they cuffed him. "Don't go back down there. She's still alive." No one believed him, until the freezer door opened again. Dr. Kerr never confessed. He spoke in riddles, answering questions with questions. "What's the difference between saving a life and keeping it?" he'd say, his voice calm as the hum of an operating room. I watched through the glass as he smiled at Detective Brewer, like a teacher amused by a slow student. Every word he spoke felt rehearsed, like he had prepared for this day. Maybe he thought this was still part of his work, still part of the surgery. They brought me in to verify the patient files, my own included. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I flipped through the names. Every one of them had a time of death, but the bodies were never buried. Kerr watched me through the glass, lips curled slightly, as if he knew what I was about to see next. My own surgical photo marked Subject 47. The footage came from a hidden camera in the basement. The police thought it would show the surgeries, but it showed something else. In the corner of the frame, a shadow moved. Someone who shouldn't have been alive. I watched as a woman, pale and trembling, crawled across the floor toward the freezer. Her face looked familiar. Detective Brewer wanted to believe she was still alive, that somehow she'd survived 5 years in that house. But Kerr only smiled and said, "She's in every one of them." The detective slammed his fist on the table, shouting, "Where is she?" Kerr leaned forward, whispering, "You've already seen her face." I couldn't sleep after seeing the footage. I replayed the moment over and over, the woman crawling, the freezer door closing. But what haunted me wasn't her face. It was the reflection in the glass behind her. Someone else was there. Someone watching. They exhumed one of the unclaimed graves Kerr had signed off on years ago. The coffin wasn't empty, but what was inside wasn't human anymore. Flesh stitched together in perfect lines, organs arranged like trophies. The air around it smelled like bleach and copper. Detective Brewer stared at the corpse, whispering, "He tried to rebuild her." I realized then it wasn't about killing. Kerr had been trying to recreate his wife, piece by piece. Kerr said it started after Emily's accident. He couldn't let her go. He told the court that medicine had failed her, but he wouldn't. "If the heart beats," he said, "then the soul must follow." His voice trembled for the first time, and I saw a flicker of grief in his eyes, just before the smile came back. He called his creation continuity. When I visited the hospital where he used to work, One nurse told me he always took the night shifts alone. She said she'd hear humming through the vents, like a lullaby sung to no one. Down in the old surgical wing, the lights flickered, and I swear, I heard it too. That song. It sounded like mourning wrapped in madness. I found a storage locker under his name. Inside, there were boxes of surgical parts, glass jars filled with organs suspended in clear fluid, each labeled subject. One jar had my initials. I dropped it when I saw what was inside, a small piece of skin, pale and freckled, just like mine. But I never had surgery. Or did I? When I called Detective Brewer to tell him what I found, he didn't answer. I went to his house, and the door was open. The smell hit me first. Bleach and copper again. The TV was still on, showing the news about Kerr's appeal. Ready to ice it. In the reflection of the screen, I saw something on the floor, his badge, and next to it, a white latex glove. The night after finding Brewer's badge, I couldn't tell if I was awake or dreaming. My phone rang once. No caller ID, but when I answered, all I heard was steady breathing. Then a man's voice whispered, "You shouldn't have opened that jar." My throat went dry. I could hear faint humming behind him, the same lullaby from the hospital vents. When the line cut, I noticed my reflection in the window, and something moved just behind me. The police said Kerr was still in custody. But when I drove by the hospital that night, I saw him standing in the parking lot under the rain, wearing his white coat. His eyes followed me as I passed. I blinked, and he was gone. When I checked the footage from my dashcam, the lens flickered for exactly 6 seconds, then static. But through the static, a voice whispered, "You still have my work inside you." The autopsy on Brewer confirmed what I feared. He didn't die from violence. His heart had been surgically removed and replaced with someone else. The scars were neat, almost admiring. The coroner said it was a masterful job. I asked if it could have been Kerr's work. She just stared at me and said, "Whoever did it wasn't working alone anymore." That night I dreamt I was back in the basement. Only this time I was the one on the table. My wrists were strapped, and the hum of the light filled my ears. From the corner, I saw Emily, alive but wrong. She leaned over me, whispering in a trembling voice, He just wants to finish." Then I woke up screaming, my hands covered in dried blood. I drove to Kerr's old house one last time. The basement door was sealed with police tape, but it had already been cut. Someone had been inside. The smell was stronger now, like something waking up. My flashlight shook as I stepped down the stairs. There was a new table in the center of the room, and a heartbeat monitor still beeping. The monitor wasn't supposed to work. There was no power in the basement, yet it beeped steadily, perfectly timed like a living pulse. I pulled the sheet back. What I saw made my mind freeze, stitches forming my own shape. My freckles, my hair, my jawline. It was me. Whoever had done this hadn't just copied my body. They'd repaired it, improved it. The skin was flawless, seamless, and when the chest rose on its own, I realized, whatever it was, it had a heartbeat. I tried to run, but the basement door slammed shut behind me. A faint light flickered on, and there he was, Dr. Kerr, standing by the jars again. "You're not supposed to see this part," he said softly. His hands were bare, trembling for the first time. She wasn't supposed to wake up yet. His eyes filled with something almost like pride as he looked at the body. "You were my clean slate." He stepped closer, explaining how Emily's heart failed before he could save her. "But then I met you," he said. "Your physiology, your tissue, it was perfect." His voice cracked with reverence. "You've been part of this for years, Claire. You just forgot." He raised a small scar on his wrist and whispered, "We share blood." The replica sat up on the table. Its eyes opened. My eyes. But they didn't blink. Its mouth twitched, trying to form words. Kerr stepped back, smiling, whispering, "There she is." I felt a pressure in my chest, sharp and unbearable, as if my heart had skipped time with the monitor. Then the replica whispered my name. Kerr's smile faded when the replica spoke again, not to me, but to him. "You left me in the dark," it said, voice shaky and mechanical. The beeping quickened. Kerr stepped forward, reaching for her hand. "Emily?" he whispered, but the voice that answered was mine. "She's gone." Then the lights went out, and the last sound I heard was the monitor flatlining, followed by my own heartbeat echoing louder than it ever had before. When the lights flickered back on, the table was empty. The replica, my other self, was gone. Dr. Kerr was on the floor, bleeding from his nose, whispering, "She took it." I asked what he meant, and he smiled through the blood. "The heart. It chose her." I backed away, heart pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to escape my chest. Somewhere deeper in the house, I heard the faint rhythm of another heartbeat answering mine. I ran upstairs, but the house didn't feel the same anymore. Every reflection caught movement, my reflection. But it didn't move with me. In the hallway mirror, I saw myself standing perfectly still, head tilted, smiling faint. I smashed it with my flashlight, but in every shard, her face stared back. My heartbeat synced with the echo of shattering glass. Kerr followed me, limping, calling my name softly like a doctor calming a patient. "She's not separate," he whispered. "She's the part you left behind." His hand trembled as he reached for me. "If she lives, you die." That's balance. I saw the scalpel flash in his other hand. I didn't think. I just grabbed the nearest jar and threw it. It shattered across his face, releasing a cloud of formaldehyde and something that still twitched. He fell to the ground, gasping, eyes rolling white. I thought it was over, until the basement door opened by itself. From the darkness, the replica walked out, calm, eyes glowing faintly in the light. Her skin shimmered like wet porcelain. She looked down at Kerr's dying body and then at me. "He wanted her to live," she said softly. "Now she does." The replica knelt beside Kerr's body and placed her hand over his chest. "He gave us both life," she whispered. "You should thank him." Her other hand reached toward me, her fingers twitching like they were learning how to move. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't listen. She smiled softly and said, "We're not two people, Claire. We're one heart trying to decide who gets to keep it." I woke up in a hospital bed. White walls. The beeping of a heart monitor next to me. My chest hurt with every breath. A nurse told me they found me unconscious in Kerr's house. "You're lucky," she said softly. "Your heart stopped for almost 2 minutes." When she left, I looked at the monitor. The pattern wasn't steady. It fluttered, like it was trying to sync with something else. Then, from the reflection on the screen, I saw my other self standing in the doorway, smiling. She stepped closer, and the lights dimmed. The air grew cold, mechanical. "You're awake," she said. Her voice was calm, detached. Mine, but without emotion. He failed with her, but he perfected us. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. She leaned over, pressing her palm gently against my chest. "You don't need this anymore." The monitor flatlined. When the nurses rushed in, they found nothing. No second woman, no signs of struggle. Just me, motionless, pulse weak but steady. They called it a miracle recovery. But when I looked at my reflection in the window, the scar on my wrist was gone. In its place was a faint surgical stitch, still healing. I smiled before realizing I didn't mean to. They released me 2 days later. I tried to go back to my old life, but people looked at me strangely, like something was off. My editor said my voice sounded different. The neighbor's dog barked every time I walked by, and sometimes, when I passed a mirror, I swore I saw someone blink a second too late. I told myself it was trauma, But trauma doesn't make your heart beat twice at once. Tonight, I finally listened to my old interview recordings with Kerr. In one of them, he said something I'd forgotten. Every life I save, I keep a copy of it. Not to remember them, to continue them. I turned the recorder off, heart hammering. From somewhere in the apartment, I heard the faint hum of a monitor, and the sound of someone breathing in sync with mine. Would you still trust your doctor? If he could rebuild you better,